hustling muscle. And I'm going to be joined by Gauri for another interesting session. So let's see what's in store for us today. We know we're talking on IBS. Let me see if I can get Gauri connected. Okay, I don't see Gauri yet. And I have one audience. Let me see. And I invite Gauri. And we should be joined by Gauri. So I hope everybody is doing good. And it's the weekend. It's the Saturday. Hey, Gauri, what's up? Rockstar Dietitian. That's the new name given to you, I believe. Can you hear us, Gauri?
Yeah, I can hear you. How's
Can you hear
everything
us?
today?
Everything is good. Everything is good. Everything is good. So, okay, there's a bit of a lag, but I think it's manageable. Okay. So, Gauri, Rockstar Dietitian, how are you doing today evening?
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, once in a while blow up on the social media circuit. Why not? Why not?
So you're being the person to be in the social media circuit, I believe. The Rockstar Dietitian.
I'll drink to that.
Oh, yeah, we all should. Okay, Gauri, now coming to the point, we are discussing about IBS today. Now, IBS is something that I have faced. That's something you told me that Pratik, you're facing this. Go get it checked out. You have been able to help me out with IBS. You're helping a lot of people out with a lot of different medical problems, Crohn's disease, IBS, and other clinically challenged diseases, I would say. Okay, I see there's a bit of a lag in Gauri's internet. Okay, she's back. Okay,
Yes.
so
Sorry.
Gauri, why don't you explain to people what IBS is? What are the effects of IBS on our daily lives?
So IBS is let's just put it out there what the full form of IBS. It is a short form for irritable bowel syndrome. So when we say bowel syndrome, it means there are symptoms, multiple symptoms of different kinds that show up without a very specific cause to it. So that's why it's called a syndrome. One of the biggest things that we find with IBS is, you know, uh, a lot of the patients who come in with the IBS have a lot of gas, as maybe with a little bit of acid reflux, cyclic constipation and diarrhea, cramping, all these things
Bloating.
going, bloating, a lot of gastrointestinal issues where, they are in major discomfort. And one of the biggest issues with having IBS is the havoc it plays on your daily life. It's trying to keep it sustain a normal day when you're in a full-blown episode of IBS is really, really difficult. And, especially when you have diarrhea, it makes it very difficult for people to function, properly during that phase. So it can play a huge, huge havoc on everyday life.
So, Gauri, how many types of IBS are there? I believe there are three types of IBS, if I'm not wrong.
So there are multiple types of IBS. There's been research done. There are specific strains are dependent on the inflammatory immunoglobulin that is affected. So, but overall, there has been no pinpoint as to, I mean, there's a lot of either you do a gut biopsy or, most of the doctors who diagnose patients with IBS go with primarily with symptoms over a period of time. If it's a recurring thing, that's how they diagnose it. But whether it's an, IBS A form or IBS M form or IBS C form, it needs further testing to get to that level.
So when we say
So,
IBS, IBSM, what are we like? What's the M and the C?
so those are specific molecules that are on the thing. So it's a basic testing mechanism where they're identifying it by a particular molecule on the strain or the biopsy or the immunoglobulin.
Okay, fine. What are the triggers for an IBS?
Ah. So, like I already mentioned, IBS is not necessarily does not necessarily have a particular cause. one of the most common triggers, and this is something I thought I should mention, is IBS is extremely common, especially in the Southeast Asian community. Okay, Asian and Southeast Asian community. In India, it is pretty common. And one of the biggest triggers for this is stress. Okay, so stress is considered one of the biggest triggers. Second is uh, some people, there are some studies out there that suggest, bowel movement and having constipation can also lead to this. But because constipation and, like what I said, cyclic constipation and diarrhea is a major feature of this thing, where you have episodes of diarrhea at 3 to 4 days, and then you'll have, constipation for a few days. That that can also be a cause because bowel habits are not regular. That's one way of putting it. Then there could be certain trigger foods. So for some people, it could be some trigger foods. Yeah. So there,
I
like,
have,
if
it was very surprising. I had a few green vegetables which were a trigger for a food. So when we jotted that down, that was very surprising, because everybody's like, greens, you should eat greens, you should eat greens. But when I was eating greens, I was just getting bloated.
So what happens is there are certain cruciferous vegetables like cauliflower, broccoli. These are also gas formers, known as gas formers. But the cabbage, there are specific phytochemicals in these which are naturally occurring, and these chemicals basically, in some people, affect a big change in the gastrointestinal, either whether it's flora, fauna, the bacteria of it and how it's processed in the system. For you, I know when we talked about it and we identified like one or two specific leafy vegetables that really weren't, and you were eating them. From your diet, I know you eat, green leafy vegetables. You eat lots of vegetables and things like that. But specific things were having major issues for you once we started jotting them down and realized that certain episodes were triggered by certain vegetables for you. What works for somebody will not work for somebody else.
Correct, correct.
So
Because things like, chana, like kala chana, or, Kabuli chana, these things did not suit me. I remember I used to have a very, very bad episode, because especially when I was trying to have a mid-evening snack. I remember we said, okay, let's get chana, but that actually backfired. I became like a
exactly.
horse.
So so uh, so anything that gas forming. So when we talk about gas forming foods, now it's not necessarily gas forming foods themselves, the foods themselves. It's also the makeup of our internal bacteria, of our of our intestine, where some people have maybe slightly more gas formers. They have bacteria that process foods in a different way that form that extra gas. So it all depends on a lot of things. So genetics is one thing. Gastrointestinal bacterial makeup makes it another thing. The foods you're eating, what your environmental exposure is to, that also makes a difference. The amount of stress you're going through, that also makes a difference. Because you at one point was super, super stressed, remember? And yeah, and you would come back saying, I've just not had a great 2 days. I've been curled up in a ball, and I've had to function with severe bloating, severe gas, severe bouts of diarrhea, and it's really bad. And I
But I
remember
think, yeah, but I think for me, it was a big lifestyle, this thing, especially when I was in Bangalore. I think it was a big lifestyle problem, which I was not ready to accept at that time. And I was, I think now I realize the triggers that were there, but I was, giving a blind eye to it, saying, no, no, there's something else. So I think maybe that was a
So
point there.
when we talked about it, I mean, we talked about the stress level, we talked about the exercise, we talked about the bowel habits, and that's when we realized, when we were starting to jot down the very specific things that you ate, the things you didn't eat, the things that were happening. That's when we kind of, it was easier for us to identify that this is probably what is actually triggering it, and what is happening to you.
But is IBS same person to person, or would it differ?
It differs. So if at one point, again, triggers are different, symptoms can be different. Like I said, IBS is a bunch of symptoms. So there are common base symptoms. The like bloating, gas, and all these things are common symptoms. But the combination you have it in is is different from person to person.
So, okay, now Gauri, asking you this: can IBS be controlled through your diet?
Through a combination of diet, exercise, stress relief, yes, it can. So diet basically, so when we talk about dietary control, IBS, it's like there are two phases that you have. Is the inactive phase, meaning when all things are hunky and dory, yeah, and the active phase when you're going through pain and two different
Okay, I think Gauri
approach.
is having internet trouble.
Again,
Yeah, okay, now you're
hello.
back. Yeah,
Okay, can you hear
yeah,
me
yeah,
now? Yeah.
yeah, I can hear you.
So, so
Hmm. Gauri, I think you're having troubles again with your internet. Okay, I think she would be joining us. I think she would need to reconnect. But yes, as saying, IBS could be different from person to person. For a person like me who's had IBS for such a long time, as I said, I was giving it a blind eye when I was back then in Bangalore. I was giving a blind eye. I was not even realizing it was IBS that was troubling me the most. But then it is, you as in when you experience it, you understand, okay, this is the problem. This is what I was doing. This is how it is. So it's very, very simple as that. One, okay, I have Gauri back. So I was, yeah, no
I
problem.
live, yeah, I live in a very crazy corner of the world where
As
everything
I
just shuts
said,
down.
you know, you have to understand there are certain food groups which you'll understand. Okay, this triggers, this irritates, this doesn't irritate. This is smooth for me, this is not. This works for me, this doesn't. So it's as simple as that. You have to zero down your food basically. And trust me, it can be very weird. Something like a flat bean can be a problem for you, though it's very delicious to eat in, but still it can be a problem. Or a type particular masala, or I've even actually seen these outside foods when especially these salons that you get with biryani. Those masalas don't suit me, and that is a big trigger for IBS. I don't know how. It's not the bengan, but it is basically the some masala or some ingredient they're putting in that recipe which messes with my system. So it goes from person to person. Now, Gauri, as you explained to people about how we can control it through diet.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, so basically, like exactly what you said. So first step is identifying if there is a dietary trigger. So for you, you knew exactly that whatever that one particular ingredient, we couldn't pinpoint it. Point it to that one particular ingredient, but we did know which food was the culprit. So, and that was eliminated from the diet. So we never went that to that food dish or specific ingredient again. However, when we're talking about, like I was talking about, the active phase and the inactive phase. Inactive is when you're okay and everything is fine and your gut is absolutely working well for you and you're having a great time. The active phase of of IBS is when you've got that flare up and you're it's where you're bloated, you're gassy, you've got bouts of diarrhea, you're having a real bad day of it. And at that point, it's usually better to have foods that are soothing. So usually things like, a lot of people have different foods that work for them, but foods that are lower in fiber are e- essential or can work really well during the active phase. Whereas in the inactive phase is when you need to have a lot more of your fibrous foods and things like that. Why we suggest a lower fiber food in the active phase is when you have active diarrhea going on, and that's when everything is just feeling really horrible. You want foods that can help bind, nourish you at that same time, and not exasperate the diarrhea process. So
okay,
yeah.
So
One
my
of
question is,
yeah.
we zero down to food, we eliminate food groups at times, like we did for me. See, not getting nutrition from one particular foods. Okay, like some foods are very important for day-to-day lives. We all know that.
Mhm.
Now, those foods are being eliminated where it doesn't suit us. Can this lead to malnutrition?
So, okay, if you're eliminating, if you identify a trigger food and you say that this trigger food is not working for me, and you eliminate that food from your diet, you can have the same or similar nutrients coming from other foods in either other food groups or in the same food group. Okay, but when you eliminate an entire food group is when you have an issue, is when you can actually have nutrient deficiencies in going ahead, and over a period of time this can lead to malnutrition to a certain extent. At least in, if not macronutrients, it would be in micronutrients, especially things
Hmm.
like, if you're eliminating things like green leafies completely out of your system. I mean, there are different ways you can get other nutrients, but you've actually eliminated a lot of fiber from your system, so that makes a big difference.
So when somebody
So
eliminates, what do you suggest to them? What should they do? Like for me,
So, like for you, we identified single foods or single ingredients, and it was easy to take out those. Like, broad beans, they're not working for you. You just took out broad beans, but you can get the same kind of fiber or other nutrients that broad beans have from other foods in the same vegetable group. But you can't just say green leafies give me gas, or pulses give me gas. So one or two pulses give it. So I'm going to eliminate all pulses and dals. That doesn't work. Especially if you're a vegetarian, then you've eliminated a huge chunk of your protein group. So it's difficult at that point.
but for that, I'm
So
not.
yeah, that I know. So there is a lot of play when it comes to what we can do, what we should do. Eliminating an entire food group is not the answer. So I would suggest look for those specific single new ingredient or single foods that are triggering your IBS, if that's what you think you have.
Now, what is the impact of IBS and your mental health?
So IBS, like I've already said, is a group of symptoms, and those symptoms
Because IBS is connected with signals from the stomach to the brain. It's like dung dung one signal going. So how is it? How is IBS and the mental health connected? And then I'll follow up with my next question.
So there have been multiple studies of this, of IBS and multiple and mental health, and what kind of havoc it kind of plays, and it's a cyclic thing. A lot of people with diagnosed mental health issues do tend to show gastrointestinal issues as well, which could be IBS. And because like I said before, IBS is a group of symptoms, not a particular disease that can be pinpointed as to what the cause is. That's why it's so vague to say that this is triggered because of, oh, you have this issue and that's why you have IBS. So but it has been shown in multiple studies. There was one study done in uh, Thailand and Southeast Asia, and they showed that a lot of people who had diagnosed mental health issues did show IBS, irritable bowel symptoms of that. There's a lot of um, there are a lot of studies out there that show connection where depression, lack of motivation also arises. It's like a cyclic system where people suffering from depression tend to may have IBS symptoms, and vice versa when it is extended over a period of time. I mean, just imagine living at least parts of your adult life. Out of a month, maybe you're suffering at least a week or so with these symptoms, on a regular basis. This can be devastating on your day-to-day life, especially those few days that you're going through pain, you're going through bloating, you're going through, the diarrhea of,
I've
and
gone through that for my this thing. So that is what my next question to you is: what are the connection with the mind then? As I was asking you before, that signals. Okay, what are the connection?
so there are, like I said, you asked me, does the nutrition have any diet? Does your diet help? Diet is one thing. Exercise is another thing, and exercise kicks in endorphins, and then there's over an extended period of time the happy hormones that also tends to have a better outcome for people who are more active, tend to have lesser episodes of IBS. So these are studies showing people who are active for a prolonged amount of time, say 30 to 50 minutes per day. And I know you and Dave had a session where she said every half an hour to 45 minutes you need to get up and be doing something. So people who are, people who are active on a regular basis tend to show lower incidences of IBS. Um, the connect when you're not feeling that great, and one is the mental health of it, that, or being stressed. When one is stressed, whether it's external stress, internal mental health stress, um, that does lead to certain triggers in the gastrointestinal tract, because like you said, mind is connected to each
Correct.
part of the body.
Since you're saying stress, it used to be very stressful for me with IBS. It's not easy because I came from a field job where I was managing children and everybody
Exactly,
went
exactly.
to the washroom
So,
in between my.
right. So, Pratik, for you, you had a crazy, crazy schedule. Remember, at that time, you were out at 5, 6 in the morning. You were out till, on your feet the whole day. You were physically stressed. That's one. So, people, I just talked about exercise, but when you overdo that physical aspect of it, that is also stress. Okay.
Hmm.
Then comes in the mental management, or mental management of stress, where there is so much going on and the processing is not clear in your system, or you can't process. You're just going through a routine just for the sake of it, and you're not able to process the stress of it. That is another trigger. So all these things make a big difference when when we talk about stress. So we have to find a balance somewhere. So I think usually the best way is, like for you, even there was a point in the last 1 year, 1 year and a half, when you in the working out system, and we had a trigger or two at that time, and that was when you were overworking out, and we brought the even the workouts down, which
Hmm.
helped. So
Hmm.
that can also work.
Okay. Now my question again stands is your my last question rather. IBS,
Hmm.
is it imaginary? Because I've been going through researches, listening. A lot of people say it's all in the head. There's nothing called IBS. It's just imaginary. What is your take on that?
Mental health is all in the head. Okay, let's start off with that. Everything is in the head. Everything that you think and feel, behave, the way you react to the external world, to the internal world, is starts from the head. Your choices start from the head. It is mental to quite a bit of extent, where the symptoms are physical. So yes, there is a connection, but is it imaginary? I don't think so. I don't think that's fair to say. There are a lot of things that modern science has not been able to explain in terms of. That's why there is no specific cause for IBS. There's no pinpointed cause for it. There are a slew of causes. It could be stress, it could be your genetics, it could be what you ate, those kind of things. So I think it's very unfair to say that it is imaginary, and a lot of people go through mental health issues without being diagnosed of it, and can't pinpoint the physical symptoms that come out, and that is very, very important to do. We go to our doctors. I mean, a lot of people go to doctors to pin- uh, you know cure or identify or diagnose a physical issue. where when you don't get the answer you want, that's when it gets a little bit more stressful, and and it's I think it's a little difficult for the person to handle it as well. So
Hmm.
hmm.
So toward the end, what would you tell for the customers before we close the conversation?
So if it's so basically for everybody listening out there, I think my base level thing is everybody, we all go through stress. We all go through a lot of, ups and downs in life. Um, it- the best way to handle it, is usually with the help of someone you trust, you can confide in. But other than that, taking care of oneself in terms of being able to eat clean, identify foods that may have effects on you, in terms of, alleviating your mood, things that make you feel happy. I know chocolate is a great thing that everybody loves, and chocolate has amazing as mood
Okay, I think
lifters.
Gauri
And
is still having a bit of trouble. I think she should patch. Okay, she's patched back.
am I
Yes,
no?
yes, you're there. Yeah, you're there.
Yeah, so basically what I would say to everybody is start with yourself. If look after what you're eating, do your regular exercise.
Done.
Okay.
You said chocolates. Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Before
yeah.
we go to our rockstar dietitian, what's your take? Chocolates are good or bad?
I love chocolate. That's
Yeah,
like
but
yay.
are they good or bad?
Again, you know me, you've known me well enough to know that I'll never say any kind of food is bad. But chocolate is fantastic. Chocolate has amazing phytochemicals, like I said, that are really good and trigger the same kind of response in your body as love. So yes, it's good, of course.
So, Zaria, I hope you're listening to it. I just saw how you signed in and you've written Supreme. So, I know you're a person filled with chocolates at home. So, my whole reason to ask that question. So, now you have a green light, Zaria, to go
Hold
eat
on, hold on,
chocolate.
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Before you go further than that, I'm just going to put in an addendum
Correct.
to that. There's one little thing. I know I saw that one. One little thing. Chocolate is great in specific quantities. Okay?
Specific.
If no, 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 no. Aha. Exactly. So you just got to watch that's what we're trying to say. Unless there is a medical issue, where there is a real no-no that can have a bad effect on your health. All food should be enjoyed, but all food should be enjoyed responsibly. You know what I mean? So,
So I think my niece will just join me. She basically is surrounded by chocolates and sugars because my sister is a baker. She's a home baker
oh,
based in Bangalore. She runs a small bakery. I won't say bakery, a home bakery called Indulge Cupcakes, which serves some
lovely.
of the dishes. So I think she was here in town a few weeks back, and I think
Yeah,
she
we saw
brought
the pictures.
huge
Yeah,
of chocolate. Somebody saw my story,
yeah.
brownies and this thing. Don't worry, I did not eat anything. I just had a look at them. I'm still off my sugars for the
Ah,
last 2, but still, I would always advocate, if you have a sweet tooth, please enjoy it. There's nothing wrong with
absolutely.
having well, anything in limits is well and good. If you're working out, giving it all you have, then there's nothing like to have a sweet tooth. You live life once, so you should enjoy it. And talking about IBS and things, my last thing to everybody out there is, see, getting up in the morning and having a clean stomach is what I would say is very important. If you don't have a clean stomach, it is very irritating to go throughout the day. I have been one of those people who have faced that, and it's taken a great deal. At times, I still deal with that. And a lot of people feel shy or ashamed to talk about all this or get
Right.
consulted. The IBS, there are many other, I won't say diseases, there are other challenges that you have gut related. You can get in touch with us today. We are looking into a lot of different medical, clinical, nutritious things that we can help you with. So you can obviously get in touch with me or Gauri. You can DM us, even if you have doubts, even if you slightly or remotely think there could be something wrong with your gut. It cannot be serious. It may not be serious. It might be some small adjustment or small thing that needs to be tweaked. Get in touch with us. We are always there to help, and that's why we are there. You have expertise of Gauri help you. She's been able to help me, cure me without me going to a doctor. So, you can obviously get in touch with us. She'll be able to do good for you there.
But
Yes,
Pratik,
Gauri.
I'd like to add one small thing before we, before you wrap this up is make sure if you're having some sort of symptom, make sure you go to your doctor. Get your physician to check you out. If you're not satisfied with with the kind of answers you're getting, get a second opinion. That is always necessary. Make sure we are not in a position to diagnose you, but so you must go to a physician if you feel that you're having symptoms that have been existing for a long time and you're having trouble with your gut or whatever it may be in terms of the medical realm. So please go to the doctor and find out what could be possibly going on. And second thing is, Pratik, next time maybe if everybody's willing, let's talk about poop.
Yeah, we will. We've already spoken about it many times, so we will one day, I think,
Sure.
take up that topic. So, anyways, I think this has been a good session. Okay, we had the rockstar dietitian Gauri Gote, and you had. So, anyways, till next time, we got to catch up. I hope everybody has an amazing Sunday. It's going to be another F1 race, so let's hope we have another Max win this week at least. So let's hope for the best. So, anyways, everybody, thank you so much for joining in. Thank you, Gauri, for your
Thank
time.
you. Thank
Next week,
you. Bye bye.
everybody enjoy the Sunday. Thank you.